for sure.
Yeah. Well, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out, and I'd love to begin our conversation coming up on this 4-year anniversary of the pandemic. Nothing to really celebrate, so to speak, but I'm curious, how did you survive that time period, and how did it change you?
So the pandemic was wild. Um, pandemic hits March 2020, June 2020, the company I worked for acquired a business and they gave it to me. And they're like, you know, I need you to grow this. And I was like, there were 100 locations, 100 franchise territories. It was a drywall repair franchise, uh, 40 franchisees, and they're all running around like a chicken with their head cut off. They're like, the founder's gone. What's going on? There's a pandemic. I can't go outside. And we had to basically turn that business around and get it ready to start selling locations across the country. And so it was literally the busiest I've ever been before I decided to become an entrepreneur was 2020. So it kept me like very focused on like the task at hand
Yeah.
versus like, out here panicking about the pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, so from a business perspective, it was great. I learned a ton of stuff during that time and ended up getting to where I am now. Um, because of the knowledge that I gathered during that time. But yeah, I mean it was a wild like I
Yeah.
just wild.
Yeah. So you're a franchise expert, but if we got to the brass tacks of what you do on a daily basis, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day, and one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I help people become business owners.
So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade?
In third grade, that's a good question. I only can remember as far back as what I wanted to be when I was in college. Um, I wanted to be in the film and television industry. I wanted to work as a talent agent, um, for actors and writers.
Yeah.
And ended up trying that out after college, and I ended up not liking it. Um, so I did that for 5 years, and I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And got into the franchise industry. So been in the franchise industry for years now.
Okay. So what was it about that industry that was it just too much? Just the pace, all of that?
I'm okay moving at a quick pace. What it was is that industry is very like dog eat dog, and we're trying to win one over on you, and you're constantly chasing your tail. Like everything you've heard about the Hollywood industry, it's all true,
Yeah.
all of it, you know. And I just was like, I don't want to be in this world where there's no stability. Also, living in like West Hollywood and Hollywood, like you're not going to own like a bunch of property. Like you're going to be renting until you're like mid 40s, until you can buy a house in Sedina, and it was just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. It's interesting. Um, and I've heard all the stories, and it is like sometimes you just have to get on the inside to see it. Like I wanted to get into sports broadcasting, and I actually got
Right.
into the world of it, and I was like, I don't think so. I mean, and I was intern for the Royals, and I would see the players, and I would walk around. I'm
Right.
like, you know what? Do I want to make my own story? Or do I want to chase these millionaires for stories with questions that they hear all the time and get so pissed off that they're going to get volcanic at one point? Because during that time, there was a very famous clip that's out there that's infamous of someone asked Hal McRae a question after a game. And it was pre-digital and all of the little mini tape recorders were up. And he just
Right.
threw all of them off and lost his mind. And I'm like, I just don't think that's the kind of world that I want to step into. Not because of what Hal did, but it's
Right.
like the questions are the same. How many times can you ask Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady about something that we've heard a million times? Like
Right.
what journal anyway. So I get what you're saying. So how did becoming a franchise expert, how did going for that pursuit from what you wanted to do, how did that become your voice and your passion and your way?
I fell into it. I had a buddy who I went to college with, and I was in a kind of a B2B sales role, um, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And he said you should get into the franchise industry. And I think like most people outside the franchise industry think that franchising is just McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and like legacy fast food. He explained to me that actually you can get people like signed up in these home service franchises and they can actually it's less money, higher margins, and you give these people a path to business ownership. And I loved the idea of that. I loved being able to help and impact people's lives in a way that was more than helping a movie get made, right? Because you watch a movie, it's 2 hours, probably not going to make a big difference in someone's life, like very rarely. But like giving someone a business and a path to business ownership and them building wealth because of that and employing people in their community because of that, um, that's really enriching.
Yeah.
And and so I got into the franchise industry, and then I saw that there was a lot of behaviors like that were kind of like within the industry that were concerning, and they were very almost like abusive and to franchisees. And and my thought process is if I got into the industry to help people become business owners and generate wealth, then it's my responsibility as a franchisor or a franchise professional to actually provide a path to that. Because otherwise, what the hell are we doing here? Right. And um, so over years of working on different brands and helping people become business owners and them not getting the support that I felt they deserved for buying from us, I'm like, screw it. I'm doing this on my own. I'm going to go find a business that I believe in. I'm going to franchise that business and I'm going to build systems and I'm going to raise capital and I'm going to build a team and we're going to do it the way that we know it needs to be done. And I turned down like a pretty incredible role. Like I was making over $500,000 a year and they're like, "We want to double your salary." And I was like, so for me it's purpose driven. Like I can come out here, I can take this big risk, I can build a franchise system and as a result a bunch of lives can be changed and then we can set hopefully an example for other franchisors that enter the franchise industry on how to do it the right way. And so that's how I got to Rolling Suds.
So, who's been kind of an inspiration or a hero for you in your life?
So I have mentors who I actually have sought investment from and are on my board of advisors as minority investors in Rolling Suds. And one of them has 42 KFC Taco Bells. He has 32 Wendy's locations. He has 89 Outback Steakhouses. He has 800 Domino's locations, and he's building a new one every 32 hours in China. So, someone like that in their mid to late 50s with that type of like impact on not only the US, but also the world. Um, is something that I aspire to be able to do. Um, he helped me really kind of frame my thoughts around what I call responsible franchising, which I started kind of tweeting around about and creating content about a little over a year ago. And it's now become a pretty big talking point within the franchise industry because there are a lot of people who feel the same way that I do, who have seen this behavior over decades in an industry that started out as quite corrupt and have been like, this isn't the right way. And so he's helped me kind of like really think about what is it that we're doing on a grand scale and how can our daily actions impact that larger goal. And and there are others that are on my board as well that I talk to regularly who have had other varying levels of success. But that's been super instrumental in my kind of growth and rise within the franchise industry.
So, what's been one of your best client success stories that you've been involved with?
Yeah. So I look at our franchisees as our clients, as our customers, right? Like a franchisor, which is what I am, is a service company for franchisees. We provide services in the form of marketing, payroll, you know, technology, tech stack, recruiting, business coaching, like and all of those services justify the royalty that franchisees pay us on a regular basis, right? If they're not paying, if they're paying us royalty, they expect services and support in return, because otherwise, why wouldn't they just go do it on their own? And so I've had multiple franchisees leave a career where they're making 200 plus $1,000 a year in different brands. And in their first month of operation, do between 30 to $55,000 in top line revenue, and be cash flowing first month of a business that 3 months prior they knew nothing about. They, I'm not bringing in, we're a power washing franchise. I'm not bringing in power washers. I'm bringing in business owners who want to learn how to build a big business, not people who want to power wash buildings. And it was the same thing with the drywall repair business. So someone who says, I'm going to give you 200 grand. And the expectation that I have is that there's going to be a reasonable time that it's going to take to return that amount of capital. And we're able to create systems that allow people with either this brand or other brands that I've been involved in to be cash flowing their first month back from training. And, that's with another brand that I worked on, like he was making $250,000 a year, and he left training and he had 8 estimates lined up the day he got back from training and 6 estimates lined up the following day. He did $30,000 that first month and was on track to like replace that income within 2 to 3 years, which he was in his mid 50s and had never started a business before. And it took him, I don't know, 14 to 20 years to get up to a $250,000 salary, right? Like that's a big number. Um, so those are the types of stories that I don't feel like a lot of people hear outside of the franchise industry, because they hear about how Quiznos or Subway opened up a location across the street from another one, and like that's what people hear, but they don't hear the stories that I want them to hear, like that.
Yeah.
Um, which that's what franchising should be about,
Yeah.
is doing things like that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, in the world of business or otherwise, if you could meet one fascinating person on the planet, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Uh, the first name that comes to mind is Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
So I grew up watching him uh, rise from, rookie player to him and Shaq taking over the world.
Yeah.
And like, he passed away in 2020 with the tragic helicopter crash uh, right before the pandemic hit. My mom likes to say that Kobe died and then the world went to crap.
Yeah.
Um, so that'd be really interesting to talk to, and kind of get his perspective on wealth and fame and family, because we're building an audience, and our goal is to, in the next, 2 to 5 years, have a pretty big audience. And I have a family that I love more than anything, and young kids. My son's almost 3 and my daughter's 15 months. And so kind of like what I'm noticing as an entrepreneur is there's this balancing act of like being up here planning, you know, I say world takeover, but planning like, a 10-year, monster plan, and then kind of like being in the moment and being present with my kids and my wife. And I think that that's a challenge that every entrepreneur has, and would be interesting to get his take on that.
So of all of the things that you've done and become and overcome in your life and achieved, what are you the proudest of?
Professionally or personally?
It could be the Venn diagram, could bleed into it itself.
Okay. So, personally, it's the family that I've built and the life that I've built for them. My wife never has to work in her life, and that was important for us, to build a family. I take a lot of pride in that. We live in the best school district in the state of Tennessee. Um, buying a house in that school district is not cheap, and we're able to do that with ease. Providing the life that my kids need, my wife needs, and that we need together has been incredible. On the professional side, it's building a franchise system that actually delivers for franchisees. It's not building a franchise system that has someone write a check and never get any support ever again. And unfortunately, there are a lot of franchise systems like that. They write a check, they get some training materials, they're out on their own, and no one ever contacts them again, and they're required to pay a royalty for the rest of their business. And it's like that's not how it should be.
Yeah.
And so, creating a franchise system that's now grown to 128 locations in 24 states in 11 months, and will be a 500 unit system in the next 3 to 5 years, and which will be the biggest power washing company in the world. And to be able to build anything that is the biggest thing in the world, like whatever that, call it whatever it is, like for us, it's power washing, the biggest power washing company anymore. That's really cool. And to
Yeah.
do it by providing exceptional experiences to franchisees and allowing them to change their lives for the positive and for the better, that's really cool. I'm really proud of that.
So, Aaron, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
So I know that I have integrity, passion, care, our core values. Someone asked me recently, like, what are your personal core values? And my personal core values are the core values that I brought to my company, which I believe in. Our mission statement is, this is a relationship. I believe that life and business is built on enriching relationships, and the more enriching relationships that you have, the more happy and contented you can be. And then I do everything that I do with compassion and honesty and being as helpful as possible, which are three of our four core values. And so these are things that I live by, and I wake up every morning confident in the fact that the actions I'm taking that day are executing on my personal vision for myself, company, the communities that we impact at large. And then since I started a business, we're hitting year 3 goals on month 11. So now it's whatever I do next, or whatever other businesses I build, or whoever I hire, or whatever things I do, I look at it through the lens of what kind of impact can I make versus like how much money is this thing going to make me? Because I'm in from a financial perspective, we're good. So it's like, how do I do a thing, and then what impact is the thing that I'm doing going to have on the community at large, or the people it touches? And so that's been really exciting for me to look at things through that lens.
So, if anyone out there wants to hire you, learn more about you, reach out, what's the best way to do that? The good business.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I'm not hireable. I am not a good employee, which is why I'm an entrepreneur. I put out a ton of free content online about how to be a good franchisee and how to be a good franchisor, or how to be a good entrepreneur, and how to kind of look at things in maybe a different way, philosophically, or how what have you. Most of the stuff that I put out is on Twitter.
Okay.
My handle's Aaron Harper CEO. So Aaron, Aaron, Harper CEO. Then you can search my name online and type in LinkedIn. I put out a ton of stuff on LinkedIn as well. And then I put out short form content on Instagram, which is Aaron T. Harper as my handle on Instagram. So and then if anyone's interested in buying a franchise, which we're still wide open in many states even, they can go to rollingsudsfranchise.com and submit a form for more information.
Excellent, man. Aaron, thank you so much for your story. This has been fascinating. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. Good luck.